A former slot technician who worked in 3 major Las Vegas casinos for over 12 years just broke his silence and violated his non-disclosure agreement to reveal something that could completely change the way you think about slot machines. His name is Marcus, and I'm protecting his identity to keep him safe. But what he's told me is absolutely explosive. According to Marcus, there are 6 specific slot machines on most casino floors that offer dramatically better odds than everything else surrounding them. But here's where it gets even crazier. Casinos know exactly which machines these are, and they've spent years developing strategies to hide them from you. They tuck them in corners near bathrooms. They surround them with worse versions of the same games, and in some casinos, they're quietly removing them entirely. Then on top of that, there are 3 machines at the end that casinos desperately hope you'll play instead. Machines so brutal that former employees actually felt guilty watching regular people lose their money on them. Today, I'm walking you through all 9 machines, based on insider reports from technicians, programmers, and floor managers who decided the truth needs to come out. Machine number 1 is the Wheel of Fortune Quarter Classic, and this is absolutely critical. I'm talking about the original 3-reel mechanical version with actual physical reels that spin, not the video slot versions with the same name. According to Marcus and other former technicians I spoke with, these mechanical classics have a return to player between 92 and 94%. That puts them right up there with the most honest machines you'll find anywhere on a casino floor. As well as your academic colleagues, shouts at its kissing scone? Shouts, Captain, Captain, Captain! The reason comes down to when these machines were actually manufactured. A casino manager named Frank, who's been working in the industry for 27 years, explained something really important to me. These older machines were built during a totally different era, when casinos actually competed against each other based on payout percentages, instead of just flashy marketing and bonus features. The mechanics on these machines are incredibly straightforward. There are no complex bonus features that mess with your base game returns. There are no multi-level progressives eating away at your odds. There are no hold and spin features that feel rewarding but mathematically don't make sense. What you see on those physical reels is genuinely what you get. Marcus actually shared some internal data showing that the hit frequency on these machines is considerably higher than the modern video versions that have the same branding. But here's something really interesting. This is where casino psychology comes into play. These machines are almost always positioned in the least desirable locations on the entire floor. You'll find them tucked away in corners near the restrooms. You'll see them in older sections of the casino that don't get heavy foot traffic. They're surrounded by newer video versions that casinos are actively trying to push you toward instead. The strategy is actually pretty transparent once you understand it. Casinos are hoping that you'll see the flashy video Wheel of Fortune games with their massive progressive jackpots and those exciting bonus wheels, and you'll just walk right past this humble 3-reel machine that actually offers you better mathematical odds. The difference in how these machines are placed is so deliberate that one former floor manager actually told me they specifically positioned the newer, lower-paying versions right along the main aisles, while they hid the mechanical classics in corners. If you think it's generous that casinos even keep these machines on the floor, well, just wait until you hear about machine number 2. Because things are about to get really interesting. But before we get to the next one, here's what you absolutely need to know about finding this machine. Look for actual mechanical reels with real spinning symbols. The visual difference between this mechanical version and video versions is dramatic. The mechanical version has a distinct, old-school aesthetic that's unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. Ask casino staff if they have the mechanical version of Wheel of Fortune in their older sections. Many staff members actually know where these machines are located because they're aware they get less traffic. The denomination also matters here. Quarter denomination is your sweet spot for this machine because the payout structure at this level genuinely reflects those 92 to 94% return rates Marcus shared with me. Many denomination versions might look similar but have substantially lower returns. The key is verification. Walk up to any Wheel of Fortune machine and check the pay table displayed on the machine itself. If you see actual spinning reels behind glass, you've got the right one. If everything is video based on a screen, that's not the machine Marcus was telling me about. This distinction is absolutely critical because casinos will put video versions right next to mechanical versions, hoping you'll play the wrong one. Machine number 2 is Jacks or Better Video Poker, and specifically we're talking about the full pay 96 version. Now technically this isn't a traditional slot machine, it's video poker, but you'll find it sitting right on casino floors alongside all the slot machines. According to mathematical analysis and former programmers I interviewed, this machine offers a return to player of 99.54% if you play with perfect strategy. Let me repeat that number because it's crazy. 99.54%. That means for every $1,000 you wager using the optimal strategy, you're theoretically only losing $4.60 to the house edge. That's absolutely wild compared to most other machines on the floor. Now, the critical distinction you absolutely need to understand is the 96 designation. This refers to the payout structure. We're talking 9 coins for a full house and 6 coins for a flush when you're playing max coins. These numbers matter enormously because here's what casinos do. They also offer 85 and 65 versions that look almost identical to the 96 version, but those have return to player rates of 96% and 94% respectively. A former programmer named David explained the reasoning behind casinos offering such favorable odds. Most players don't actually use optimal strategy. They play based on gut feeling. They hold cards that feel lucky to them. They make mathematically incorrect decisions that bring the actual return to player down to around 94 or 95% for the average player. Casinos are essentially banking on human error and imperfect play. I spoke with a regular player named Margaret, who's been playing Jacks or Better for 15 years, and she showed me her documented results using a strategy card and strict discipline. She's essentially broken even over literally thousands of hours of play. Some years she's up a few $100, other years she's down a few hundred, but over the long term, she's paying almost nothing for her entertainment. The catch with this machine is that perfect play requires a strategy card and genuine discipline. You cannot deviate based on hunches or feelings. You absolutely must verify you're playing the 96 version by checking the pay table before you put in a single dollar. The strategy cards are actually available online, and they're inexpensive or even free. What they do is tell you the mathematically correct play for every possible hand combination. When you see a specific hand dealt, you look it up on the strategy card and follow the recommendation exactly. No deviations, no gut feelings, pure mathematics. I cannot stress this enough. The difference between perfect play and average play on this machine is literally the difference between essentially breaking even and losing money consistently. David explained that the strategy card removes human emotion from the equation. Your instinct might be to hold a king and chase a flush, but the strategy card might tell you to discard the king and go for a different combination. You have to trust the math more than your gut. This is what separates successful Jacks or Better players from unsuccessful ones. The machine is genuinely fair if you play it correctly, but one deviation per hand can compound over thousands of hands into significant losses. Now you might be wondering if there are actual slot machines, not video poker, that have similar mathematical honesty. That brings us perfectly to machine number 3. Machine number 3 is the Double Diamond Classic, and we're specifically talking about the 3-reel version. This is another older generation machine that you can still find in many casinos if you know where to look. According to Marcus and other former slot technicians, this machine offers a return to players between 91 and 93% on quarter denomination. What makes Double Diamond particularly valuable from a player perspective is the straightforward multiplier mechanics, combined with what insiders describe as genuinely high hit frequency. Former technician reports indicate this machine pays small amounts, frequently, with a documented hit rate of approximately 1 win for every 8 spins. That's substantially better than most modern video slots, where you might go 20 or 30 spins between any payout at all. A technician named Robert, who serviced these machines for almost 2 decades, explained that Double Diamond was designed during an era when casinos actually competed on payout percentages, rather than just bonus features and marketing. The pay table on this machine is completely transparent. What you see displayed on the machine is exactly what the odds are, with no hidden bonus features that could theoretically pay big, but statistically almost never do. I spoke with a player named Dennis, who exclusively plays Double Diamond whenever he visits casinos, and he walked me through his typical session. He brings $200, plays quarter denomination, and his money usually lasts between 3 and 4 hours. He has modest wins, he has modest losses, but the consistency of small payouts means he's getting genuine entertainment value, rather than just watching his bankroll disappear in long, cold streaks like you might on other machines. Now, finding these machines requires some strategy. They're often located in high-limit rooms, even at lower denominations, or they're tucked into older sections of casinos that haven't been renovated recently. Here's a critical detail for visual identification. The machine must have actual Double Diamond symbols on the reels. There are many copycat versions and newer games that use similar names or styling, but the mathematical honesty of the original doesn't transfer to these newer versions. The difference is significant. A newer Double Diamond video game might look similar, but could have a return to player of only 85 to 88%. That's a massive difference from the 91 to 93% on the classic mechanical version. Robert showed me internal documentation breaking down why the newer versions have worse odds. The newer machines have bonus features and multiple pay lines that sound exciting, but mathematically cannibalize your base game returns. You might trigger a bonus on the newer version that feels rewarding, but that bonus feature costs you so much in base game returns that you're actually worse off than on the simpler mechanical version. The mechanical simplicity of the original Double Diamond is actually its greatest strength. Dennis emphasized how the consistency of his playing sessions allows him to budget properly. He knows that $200 will give him 3 to 4 hours of entertainment. He can plan accordingly. He can enjoy the experience without the stress of rapid bankroll depletion. This predictability is something that modern machines deliberately avoid because casinos want longer sessions and more total money wagered. But for a player focused on entertainment value, this consistency is invaluable. The skill in finding Double Diamond is asking casino staff directly. Many older casinos still have these machines, but they're genuinely hidden. If you go to the slot attendant or a casino host and ask specifically for the mechanical 3-reel Double Diamond, many will know exactly where it is. Some casinos have entire sections dedicated to older machines, and these classic slots are often concentrated there. Machine number 4 is Blazing Sevens, and specifically we're talking about the classic version. This is a progressive slot machine that, according to insider reports, actually gives you reasonable odds on the base game while still offering that progressive jackpot opportunity that gets people excited. Former technicians indicate the base game return to player sits between 90 and 92%, which is already better than most machines on the floor. But here's what makes it even better. The progressive feature adds an additional 1 to 3% to your overall return, depending on how high the jackpot meter has climbed. A former tech named Steven explained the critical math that most players don't understand about progressive machines. Most progressives sacrifice 5 to 8% of base game return to player to fund that big jackpot. That means you're paying an enormous premium for a chance at a prize you'll statistically almost never hit. But Blazing Sevens was designed completely differently. The base game maintains solid returns, and the progressive is essentially adding value on top rather than cannibalizing your base game odds. Steven actually showed me the break-even calculation for the quarter denomination version. When the progressive meter reaches around $1,200, that's when the jackpot has climbed enough above its reset point that you're getting genuine added value from that progressive feature. I spoke with a woman named Carol who hit the progressive on Blazing Sevens after the jackpot hadn't paid out in several weeks. The meter had climbed to $8,400, and she was specifically waiting for that elevated level before she started playing. She invested about $300 over several visits, hit the progressive, and walked away with a genuine profit even after accounting for her total investment. The strategic approach she described is exactly what Marcus and the other former techs recommend. Only play this machine when the progressive is meaningfully elevated above its reset point, because that's when the math actually works in your favor as much as any slot machine math can. You can identify elevated progressives by simply looking at the displayed jackpot amounts. If they're substantially higher than typical reset values, you're getting better odds than when the meter just reset. Understanding this concept separates players who make money from players who just throw money away on progressives. The discipline required is real, though. You need to actually walk past this machine when the meter is low and come back when it's high. Most players can't do that. They want to play right now, but if you can commit to this patience, you're playing it exactly right. Steven showed me documentation proving that very few players actually follow this strategy. Most people play progressives whenever they want to play, completely ignoring whether the meter is elevated or not. That's why casinos are willing to keep this machine on the floor. They know 99% of players won't have the discipline to play it strategically. The math works against you unless you're intentional about only playing when the progressive is high. This machine has taught me something really important about how casinos think. They're willing to let certain machines offer decent odds because they know most players won't have the discipline to play them strategically. This is the casino's ultimate confidence game. They're so certain you won't have the patience to wait for elevated meters that they'll happily install machines that could theoretically benefit disciplined players. Machine number 5 is Bonus Poker Deluxe, and this is a video poker variant that former casino hosts describe as the machine high rollers actually knew about and played when they wanted genuine value. According to mathematical analysis, Bonus Poker Deluxe offers a return to player of 98.49% with proper play. Here's what makes it particularly valuable compared to other video poker options. The strategy is actually simpler than jacks or better, which means fewer opportunities to make mistakes. A former casino host named Richard explained that the flattened pay structure means you're experiencing significantly less volatility compared to traditional video poker variants, where jacks or better pays 2-to-1 for 2 pair. Bonus Poker Deluxe pays even money, which creates more consistent returns and means your bankroll lasts substantially longer. That's a huge advantage when you're trying to stretch your money. The lower volatility is critical. What this means in practical terms is that your wins and losses are more evenly distributed. You're not going to experience those massive losing streaks that can happen on other machines. Instead, you'll have a steady stream of smaller wins, mixed with smaller losses. Your bankroll fluctuates less dramatically, which means you're less likely to bust out before you've had a chance to play. I spoke with a retired math teacher named Gerald who exclusively plays Bonus Poker Deluxe whenever he visits casinos, and he walked me through his annual results over 7 years. His average yearly loss is around $300, which means he's essentially paying less than $1 per hour for his entertainment. When you calculate his total playing time, that's an incredible bargain. He's playing for 100 to 150 hours per year and only losing $300 total. Gerald emphasized the consistency factor above all else. He's not experiencing the massive swings that other video poker variants create. And he's not watching his bankroll disappear in long losing streaks like you might with other machines. He knows what to expect. He knows his money will last. He can plan his casino trip around realistic playing sessions. Finding this machine is usually straightforward because it's typically labeled clearly, but you absolutely must verify the pay table before playing. The full pay version pays 80 coins for 4 aces, and that's your verification point. If the payout for 4 aces is anything less than 80, you're looking at a reduced pay version that drops the return to player down to around 96%. That might not sound like a huge difference, but it absolutely is over time. Richard explained that casinos sometimes swap out full pay machines with reduced pay versions in the same physical location. The cabinet looks identical, the labeling might be almost the same, but the actual payouts have changed. You have to check the pay table every single time you sit down to play. The bankroll management advantage is substantial because the lower variance means you can play properly with a smaller bankroll than jacks or better requires. You can walk in with $200 and have a real playing session instead of burning through it immediately. With jacks or better, you might need $300 to $400 for proper play. With Bonus Poker Deluxe, $200 is often sufficient. This is why Marcus mentioned this machine specifically to me. It combines mathematical honesty with practical playability in a way that most other machines simply don't. And this brings us with the high rollers knew about this machine because it's genuinely fair, and now you know about it too. Machine number 6 is Triple Red Hot Sevens, and specifically we're talking about the classic high-limit version. This machine offers something most players never realize. When you play the $1 and $5 versions, the return to player jumps to between 93 and 95%. According to Marcus and former technicians and regulatory filings in jurisdictions that require disclosure, a former slot director named Patricia explained the mathematical reality that casinos don't advertise. High-limit machines in most jurisdictions are legally required to offer better returns. Even in jurisdictions without those requirements, player expectations force casinos to provide genuinely better odds. The denomination advantage is absolutely enormous. The exact same game with the same symbols and the same mechanics will have a return to player of around 88% at penny denomination, 91% at quarter denomination, and 94% at dollar denomination. It's literally the same machine, but the odds change based purely on how much you're betting. A casino host named Michelle told me she specifically steers VIP players toward Triple Red Hot Sevens in the high-limit room because she describes them as fair fights. The odds are as good as you'll find on any slot machine anywhere. The critical distinction is that this machine must be in the high-limit room. The floor versions of Triple Red Hot Sevens have substantially lower return to player, sometimes as much as 6 or 7% lower. Well, that's a massive difference. If you're playing floor version at 88% and high-limit version at 94%, you're losing an extra 6 cents on every dollar you wager on the floor version. Over thousands of spins, that compounds into significant differences in your total losses. The bankroll requirement is real. You need at least $500 to play dollar denomination properly without risking busting out in normal variances, but you're getting the absolute best odds available on slot machines in the entire casino. Michelle explained that casinos accept these better odds in high-limit rooms because players who have the bankroll to play at these levels are already in that room and will inevitably play other games with worse odds as well. Casinos don't mind giving better odds on high-limit machines because the players in those rooms are spending significantly more money overall. In some jurisdictions, you can actually ask the slot attendant for return-to-player sheets, and they're legally required to provide them. If you're in one of those jurisdictions, verify the numbers before you play because the difference between floor versions and high-limit versions of the same machine is substantial enough to dramatically affect your expected losses. Understanding this denomination secret is something casinos really don't want you to know about. Most players think they're playing the same odds no matter what denomination they choose. They think they're just betting less money per spin. But they're actually playing fundamentally different mathematics. The practical application is straightforward. Always play the highest denomination you can afford within your bankroll limits because you're getting genuinely better odds on identical games. The only exception is video poker, where returns remain consistent across denominations, which actually makes video poker even more valuable for players with smaller bankrolls. This is insider information that Patricia specifically wanted me to share because she believes players deserve to know how dramatically denomination affects their actual odds. Now that you know the 6 machines you should absolutely be playing if you can find them, we need to talk about something really important. Everything I've shared so far about Wheel of Fortune Quarter Classic, Jacks or Better, Double Diamond Classic, Blazing Sevens, Triple Red Hot Sevens, and Bonus Poker Deluxe represents the mathematical truth about what casinos don't want you to know. But here's what Marcus wanted me to make absolutely clear to you. Knowing about these good machines means nothing if you don't understand what casinos are doing to protect their profits. Because if casinos are hiding the good machines in corners and back rooms, they're doing the exact opposite with the bad machines. The 3 machines I'm about to tell you about represent the most sophisticated psychological manipulation on any casino floor. These aren't just machines with bad odds. These are machines that casinos have specifically engineered to trap you psychologically. These are machines that former employees told Marcus they actually felt guilty watching elderly people and families lose their life savings on. Let me walk you through the 3 machines you absolutely must avoid and understand exactly why they're so dangerous. Machine number 7 is Buffalo Gold Wide Area Progressive, and this machine is positioned by casinos as generous and exciting, but according to Marcus and former employees, it's mathematically brutal in ways that most players don't understand. The core problem is that the base game return to player drops to somewhere between 85 and 87% to fund that massive wide area progressive jackpots that's shared across multiple casinos. Let me explain what that actually means for your money. If you're playing a machine with a 94% return to player and you switch to Buffalo Gold at 86%, you're losing an extra 8% on every dollar you wager. That doesn't sound like much until you do the math. For every $1,000 you put into Buffalo Gold, you're losing $86 to the house. Compare that to triple red hot sevens at 94%, where you're only losing $6 per thousand. The difference is $80 per $1,000 wagered. That compounds devastatingly over time. This is where the psychological deception gets really sophisticated. The machine triggers frequent small bonuses that feel rewarding and create the illusion you're getting good value. You hit the bonus feature and you win 50 times your bet. That feels amazing in the moment, but the math tells a completely different story. You're essentially paying 5 to 7% more in hold percentage for a jackpot opportunity that former technicians calculated at approximately 1 chance in 2.5 million spins. That's basically impossible. You could play this machine for your entire life and never hit that jackpot. A former floor manager shared a case with me of a player who spent $3,000 over a single weekend specifically chasing those Buffalo bonus features. While he triggered the bonus multiple times, his actual net result was devastating because the base game between bonuses was eating his bankroll at an accelerated rate. Every time that bonus meter would reset, he'd lose $200 getting back to the next bonus trigger. But because the bonus felt so rewarding, he kept chasing it. His brain was getting dopamine hits from the bonus wins, while his bankroll was being systematically destroyed by the brutal base game. The reason casinos push these machines so aggressively is actually simple. Banks of Buffalo Gold progressives are among the most profitable square footage on the entire casino floor. These machines are cash cows for casinos, and they're positioned exactly where casinos want them. Walk into any major casino and you'll see Buffalo Gold machines prominently displayed near entrances, along main aisles, and in high traffic areas. They're not hidden like the good machines. They're on display. Casinos want you to see them. Casinos want you to see other people playing them. Casinos want you to hear the bonus sounds and see the flashing lights. The psychological trap on this machine is absolutely real. You see other people playing it. You see bonus features triggering constantly. You think this must be a hot machine. You think other people must know something you don't. But what you're actually experiencing is the result of deliberate casino manipulation. The bonuses feel rewarding, but mathematically they're providing far less value than your brain thinks they are. This is why Marcus was so adamant about warning people away from this machine. It's specifically designed to exploit human psychology in ways that other machines simply aren't. The near-miss programming is sophisticated. You'll see 2 buffaloes land. Then you'll see a 3rd buffalo appear right at the edge of the pay line. Your brain screams that you were so close. But that near miss was deliberately programmed into the machine. The odds of that happening are far higher than actual probability would suggest. Casinos know that near misses keep you playing longer and chasing harder, and that's exactly what they want. This machine has destroyed more bankrolls than almost any other machine on casino floors, and that's no accident. Machine number 8 is Lightning Link Happy Lantern, and this machine appears generous because it triggers bonuses with reasonable frequency, but according to Marcus and former technicians, the base game return to players sits between 86 and 88%. That's already worse than the machines you should be playing, but the real problem is more sophisticated than that. Those bonus features that feel rewarding are mathematically providing far less value than players perceive. The psychological trap is the hold and spin feature that triggers often enough to keep you engaged. Most of the time that you trigger the hold and spin, you'll collect a few symbols and win something like 8 to 15 times your bet. That sounds reasonable until you realize you just spent 80 to 100 spins betting $1 each time to get there. You spent between $80 and $100 to win between $8 and $15. That's a losing proposition mathematically, but your brain doesn't process it that way. Your brain sees the win and feels rewarded. A player named Kevin told me he genuinely believed this was a hot machine because he was triggering bonuses constantly, but when he actually calculated his net result over a 6-hour session, he'd lost $1,400. He'd triggered the hold and spin feature dozens of times. He'd had what felt like dozens of winning moments, but all those small wins added up to far less than what he'd lost during the base game spins between bonuses. Casinos place these machines prominently in high-traffic areas, specifically because they want you playing them. They know the psychology works. They know players will feel like they're winning even as their bankroll disappears. The machine is designed to give you just enough small wins to keep you coming back, but never enough to actually profit. The bonus feature is the hook, and the brutal base game is what reels you in. This is sophisticated psychological manipulation dressed up as a fun game. Lightning Link machines generate enormous profits for casinos because players genuinely believe they're getting decent odds based on how often they trigger bonuses. But the math tells the real story, and that story is devastating. Marcus specifically asked me to warn you about this machine because he watched it destroy players who should have known better. The frequency of bonus triggers creates what psychologists call variable ratio reinforcement, which is the most addictive pattern the human brain can experience. Every time you get close to a bonus, or you trigger one, your brain releases dopamine. That dopamine creates a reward signal that makes you want to keep playing. Casinos know this. They engineered this machine specifically to exploit this psychological vulnerability. The near-miss programming on this machine is equally as sophisticated as Dragon Link. You'll see the hold symbols almost line up. You'll see the multiplier symbols almost complete. Your brain experiences that visceral feeling of being close to a big win. But the machine never quite delivers. Former programmers explained that these near misses are deliberately programmed to appear significantly more frequently than they would occur naturally. The result is a machine that keeps you in a state of perpetual almost winning, which is the most addictive psychological state a casino can create. Machine number 9 is Dragon Link Spring Festival, specifically the Grand Jackpot version, and this represents the absolute worst category of linked progressive slots you'll find on any casino floor, according to Marcus and former slot technicians. This is the machine that former employees told me they actually felt guilty watching elderly people lose their life savings on. The base game return to player drops to somewhere between 85 and 86%, which makes it among the lowest paying machines legally allowed in most jurisdictions. But here's what makes it particularly insidious, according to internal documentation that a former employee shared with me. You're giving up 7 to 9% in return to player compared to the machines I recommended earlier, and you're doing it for a grand jackpot that internal probability calculations show has approximately a 1 in 3.8 million chance of hitting on any given spin. Let me put that in perspective. If you played this machine for 8 hours a day, every single day, at a rate of 600 spins per hour, it would take you approximately 220 years of continuous play to reach the statistical expectation of hitting that grand jackpot once. 220 years. You would be dead for 2 centuries before you could theoretically expect to hit that jackpot. A former technician named Robert told me about a woman named Patricia who came into the casino after receiving a $40,000 inheritance from her father's estate. She started playing Dragon Link Spring Festival because she'd seen someone else hit a major jackpot on it the previous week, and that social proof convinced her the machine was ready to pay. Over the next 3 months, she systematically cycled through that entire $40,000 inheritance. Robert said he watched her during multiple shifts, and what made it particularly devastating was the psychological design of the machine. Dragon Link games show you dragon symbols frequently enough to create this persistent illusion that you're almost about to trigger the grand progressive. The near-miss programming is so sophisticated that you'll see 2 dragons land, then a 3rd dragon will appear just above or just below the pay line, creating this visceral feeling that you were incredibly close to a massive win. But former programmers explain that those near misses are deliberately programmed to appear far more frequently than actual probability would suggest. The machine is designed to show you what you almost won, rather than what you actually have a realistic chance of winning. Robert shared that in the back room where technicians worked on these machines, they had a dark nickname for the Dragon Link series. They called them mortgage makers. And they weren't referring to players' mortgages. They were referring to the fact that these machines were so profitable, they paid for the casino's physical mortgage on the building itself. A floor manager told me about watching regular players cycle through thousands and thousands of dollars on DragonLink machines, always chasing that grand jackpot, always convinced that the next spin could be the one. The placement strategy for these machines is telling. They're always positioned in highly visible locations, often near entrances where arriving players can see them immediately. They're often in banks of 6 or 8 machines, so you see multiple people playing them simultaneously. That social proof is powerful. When you walk past and see 8 people sitting at DragonLink machines, your brain interprets that as evidence these must be good machines worth playing. But what you're actually seeing is the casino's most profitable square footage at work. One former employee showed me an internal memo that actually celebrated DragonLink's hold percentage performance. The language in that memo was striking. They referred to these machines as cornerstone profit generators and discussed strategies for maximizing player time on them. The memo specifically mentioned that the frequent small dragon appearances kept players engaged, even during extended losing streaks, which translated to longer playing sessions and higher overall hold percentages. And here's the brutal reality. Everything about these machines is completely legal because all the relevant information is disclosed in the fine print on the machine itself. The odds are listed. The jackpot probabilities are technically available if you know how to calculate them from the disclosed information. The near misprogramming doesn't actually change the fundamental odds, but the psychological manipulation is so effective that players continue feeding money into these machines despite the mathematical reality. When you compare playing DragonLink versus the machines Marcus recommended earlier, you're losing an additional $70 for every $1,000 you wager. That difference compounds devastatingly over time. This is the machine that casinos are desperately hoping you'll play instead of Jacks or Better or Bonus Poker Deluxe. This is the machine that destroyed Patricia's inheritance. And this is the machine that former employees felt guilty about every single day they worked in those casinos. Now that you know which machines to play and which machines to absolutely avoid, here's what Marcus and the other former employees emphasized most strongly. These machines require genuine discipline and strategic patience. Marcus told me about his own playing habits now that he's retired from the industry. He exclusively plays Jacks or Better. He uses a strategy card religiously, and he fully accepts that he'll lose money long term. But he loses it slowly, and he genuinely enjoys the entertainment experience. The temptation factor is real, because casinos deliberately surround good machines with bad ones. You'll sit down at Double Diamond and within your line of sight will be a DragonLink bank with its massive progressive displays and other players experiencing frequent bonus triggers. Your brain wants to chase that excitement, but the mathematical cost is enormous. If you bring $500 to the casino, realistic expectations matter more than machine selection. If this video saved you money or changed how you'll approach casinos in the future, kindly subscribe to this channel because I'll be breaking down more industry secrets that former employees believe players deserve to know. These are the kinds of revelations that casinos don't want you to hear, and Marcus specifically told me that getting this information out to as many people as possible is what motivated him to break his non-disclosure agreement in the first place. He wants players to make informed decisions instead of walking into casinos blind. Drop a comment down below and let me know, have you actually played any of these machines already? Share your story, because other people need to hear the reality of what these machines do. If you've learned something new from this video, hit that like button, because it tells YouTube that people actually care about this kind of insider information. And if you want to see more exposés about casino secrets, industry manipulation, and the psychological tricks casinos use to extract money from players, turn on your notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.